All right, we're live, guys. Sending data.
We're live? Whoa!
Wait a second.
Oh,
Wow.
On X, you guys are streaming.
are we? No?
Still waiting for
Yeah, we're live.
right now. Yeah.
Dude, we're live.
All right.
Let's go.
Take your
Okay.
earmuffs off.
Oh, yeah, okay. Might need those. All right.
Hello.
Let's see now. Let's hang out. There's no one watching. No. All right. So I guess we'll let a few people stroll in and then we'll do the welcome and go from there.
Sounds good. Man.
Okay.
Have a Calusa.
Little Bitcoin against the machine. I kind of want my headphones. I think. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do it. I think I just feel naked without them. And I could hear Francis this way. That one's all Citra.
Citrononius. Yeah.
Citronius, but
It's
big,
all,
a little bigger, higher ABV,
Yeah, that's good.
if you will. Let's go. There's a little product
It's a
placement.
double-
Calusa,
Double
little
IPA.
Southwest Florida brewery.
Sarasota, Florida.
Sarasota, Florida.
Brewery.
Ixnay on the Ixnay.
Sweating more than we are.
Here in the lunar module. Well, it's like, we're going to the moon.
It's not really
so
the lunar. Well, it might be a Bezos lunar module.
maybe. Well, the lunar module was to leave the moon, though, right? So
We never left the moon.
but we haven't left. Yes, but I mean in the movie. I'm going off the movie
Okay,
here.
yeah.
Like Apollo 13, they go. Notice it was number 13.
Wow, to me, this is like the Bitcoin swamp shack.
The shed.
The swamp shit, like
Yeah.
where you go to like bury bodies and
Right.
hunt
And
alligators.
and dig up your tether.
dig up your Monero.
We have tether in the back. Come get your tether.
What other coins are just completely dead?
That was interesting. People were like, why isn't Ross talking about Monero? And I'm not a Monero guy. I'm not against Monero per se. I'm not for any shitcoin. But that was interesting, like everything Ross said. But like, why not Monero? Like, if in terms of privacy, why didn't
he
use Monero to send himself the money?
You think he sent himself the money?
I do sense it.
I
don't know if he did, but I think that's part of the psyop, to be honest. Like, I do think he sent himself the money.
You don't think it was somebody who just made a shitload of Bitcoin off Silk Road and is like, thank you, Russ?
That's definitely possible, but that was a huge chunk of change. It was 30 million. So someone's like
some big cartel member that was using
totally
the Silk Road
and made
billions.
like what had
30
10,000
million might have been a drop in the bucket, maybe.
Totally, but that's still a lot of money to
also,
and to hope you don't get caught.
Also, though, like if you just kind of played it out, like number one, he probably shouldn't have gone to jail for that long. Yes, Agreed. He broke the law, but he doesn't need to be 2 lifetimes.
Agreed, all of that.
So, and he probably had a lot of Bitcoin going into jail. If they had to give that up, and now it's in the strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Those the ones they got from him.
Right. And then, it's a little bit of like here, you can have some coins.
But dude had 60,000 or 190,000 coins. Are we live right now?
I mean, it's a pittance compared to what he could have had, but
right. So like you'd say, oh, okay, like maybe that wasn't, but like if that's,
I mean, but the only reason why it would be hidden or mixed, right? Because whoever's sending,
but it wasn't truly mixed. That's what I'm hearing. There was a centralized mixer in it that the FBI like pretty much run or like scan this whole thing.
Well, then it probably was.
Now he was also the guy.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like when we look at the way it was delivered in that mixer, kind of like says maybe it was government sending him coins.
Right, as part of the psyop of like. Yes, the government's doing it, and like it's either part of a deal or they're like they want to send a message somehow. Like again, it's part of DeFi.
If you play ball, you'll get something.
It's something like that, but it's also like look at these Bitcoiners who.
Nothing against Ross, by the way.
No, nothing against Ross, but like
just trying to figure it out.
Just trying to figure it out, and I give Ross all the. I wouldn't say benefit of the doubt.
I hope Ross gets more Bitcoin than that.
But people are like, oh, I'm not referring to Ross, but even like maybe like Trump, like cut Trump some slack, and I'm like, no, I'm not cutting anyone any slack. No one's getting slack cut.
Unless you were released from jail by Trump. Then you would be like,
no, you get to do whatever you want. Doesn't mean I have to agree with what you do.
No, I agree.
And
I
doesn't mean I
understand.
don't have to give him any respect, to be honest, because I don't know him.
Yeah, but
and I'm not
but
disrespecting him in a way.
All those conditions came before the release, right? All those conditions.
That I'm speaking of?
If there were conditions, we don't know.
Dude, what if it's not Ross?
If there were conditions.
Like, what if the Ross who went in there is not the Ross who came out?
That's a little fucking far out.
It's a little far out, but like we know nothing. Like, this is the same government that put like Epstein in a cell and tells you everyone went to sleep and
Ross's mom says it's Ross.
I agree with everything he's saying, but like
That's
I don't know anything.
That's a little far over there.
Don't trust verify. I don't have to trust anything.
Sure you
I don't even have to trust the Ross story. It doesn't nothing against Ross or the story or anything. But it's like I don't have to like have heroes, and I don't have to.
No, I'm not saying you do.
Like everything someone does, regardless of their circumstances. And I can question it without being like, without like saying, oh, like you know, I'm questioning things. I'm not saying that these things will stick.
Sure.
And so I just want to be open because like I feel like
So you're openly wrong.
That's possible. That's fine. That's totally fine.
And I can.
I think I'm wrong about everything.
Most things.
Yeah. So like that's like. So like but that's the point. Like we talk about it, and if we're wrong, we're wrong, and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Like we're just shooting the shit. Like
but it's totally understandable. What I was getting at was it's totally understandable for somebody facing 2 life sentences to make accommodations to give the speech he gave.
I don't know if that's totally.
Maybe it wasn't even a fucking accommodation. Maybe he just
feels that way.
Yeah,
totally. Well, this is the same guy.
Completely in alignment with early Bitcoin.
100%. And he might not feel the way I feel about the person I thought he would be, or, you know, or because we all guessed. We don't know him.
You can't even fathom what it would be like to be.
No, I think I could. No, we can't fathom, but we can try to walk in another man's shoes as best we can.
Yeah. Right.
And we could kind of have like the vision of our own, maybe integrity and things like that.
I'm just glad.
I think I'd be angry. I would, if I would have come out. First of all, I don't think I would speak in public. I don't think I would take more time than he did. But if I was,
I think that would be part of the.
Well, now you're talking about, so now anytime there's a deal.
That's what I mean. I think
now I don't know anything though. Like that's why I go. I don't even know if it's the same Ross.
Always a deal.
No, maybe the deal is you go away and we have fake Ross talk for you.
In every pardon, there's a deal.
Right. Maybe the deal is we have fake Ross talk for you.
Should be just ecstatic that Ross was pardoned.
Yes, I think that's amazing.
That's the bottom line.
I think that's beyond
amazing.
The scope of.
So
it breaks the matrix. That's how important his release is. That it shows that, because there's no reason the government to.
So we can take what he said and we can digest that in any way we want.
I agree.
And let's see where Ross is at 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Sure.
And what he's saying about.
Well, no, let's say what he says now, though. He wants us
to
stand with DeFi.
Limitation. Well,
he wants us to be unified.
Yes, he does.
And it was weird because his story was about wasps. His story was about wasps when we're cyber hornets.
Yeah.
So already I'm like, whoa, like you're like wow, like you're kind of against what we are in a way. You're killing the cyber hornet.
No, it's taking the cyber hornet sailor pitch.
And turning it inverse, and now the cyber hornets are bad, and we should stand with all these things we don't believe in that risk everything we're going for because maybe there's something there when like in 15 years nothing. And on first principle standards, you can go, how can you put anything on a blockchain? The whole thing's like
here's what I would say.
It's in line with thinking Elon Musk is smart, like the guy who started, the electric company and named it after Tesla. Like it's like no, everything's in an inverse fugazi here, and I'm supposed to just be like, well, like they're great and they're heroes and Byte on. I'm like, no, like nothing rung true there.
I don't think we need to take it that way. I don't think we need to take it that way. I think we can just simply look at the facts of like this poor guy, 2 life sentences. He's going to make accommodations to get his freedom. We all support Ross getting his freedom.
Yes, 100%.
That comes with concessions. And now we need to move forward. Regardless of what he said, that shouldn't change your perspective as a Bitcoiner, right? Just because Ross said it, you can hold that in a context and a frame of what that means in terms of his life. And then from there, you can discount certain things, especially when you hear things like cyber hornets, you know what I mean? And being the wasps or whatever. So you can discount all those things and you can just be like, Ross, we love you. It's good. We get it. Let's move on. Because here's the thing is that regardless of how much shitcoinery and crypto crap comes along with this Bitcoin Trojan horse, it all dies. It all dies and goes to zero against Bitcoin. And we know that. Wall Street hasn't figured that out. The political establishment hasn't figured that out because they think here's a set of tools that we can use to save the treasuries, that we can use to save the dollar, that we can seize Wall Street and power from Wall Street. We can seize power from the London banks. So they see these stuff as tools for their power. But we know that all those tools will fail because they're fiat tools, and the only thing that's left standing is Bitcoin. So regardless of what Ross says, or what happens with DeFi, or what happens with any particular shitcoin, at the end of the day, at the end of the 100-year, 1,000-year Bitcoin Mecca, there is going to be one thing left standing, and that thing is going to be Bitcoin. So it's like, and I've just kind of come to this recently about like, it doesn't really matter if it's MicroStrategy buying all the coins, or it's MetaPlanet buying all the coins, or plebs buying all the coins. It's all decentralized money, store of value that can be traded peer to peer.
But so that's the key. I think I'm in line with Jeff Booth. I think it has to become MOE after SOV to survive. And I think what's happening, I think the fight that's happening now, and the way I think Ross fits in is I think there's this huge movement to capture and ghettoize Bitcoin into a store of value. And I think that Ross proves is a strong word. It's more anecdotal evidence that the government created Bitcoin. Because even Ross, who created Silk Road, couldn't go undetected then, and can't even send himself money undetected now through a centralized mixer. No one is evading the state with no digital footprint. And that they want to bloat the blockchain, bloat the time chain, encourage people not to self-custody, discourage people to peer-to-peer transact, and to get enough coins centralized so that could be something for a really long time, like maybe not forever. So I think the goal is to centralize Bitcoin further and further, to further proliferate the Bitcoin dollar. And I think there has to be a narrative around that. And there's different attack vectors narratively.
I agree with everything you're saying is happening. But I think we're looking at two different time frames. I think you're looking at the next 10 years, and I'm looking at the next 100 years. So in the next next 10 years, I think what you're describing is going to play out.
But I think if the next 10 years go the way I'm describing, it gives them like a 50 to 80 year extension into your 90 years.
Maybe. I'm not saying I know what the fuck is going on.
Sure.
But yes. But I think one thing that actually kind of gave me hope was Saifedean's speech.
That was interesting. I didn't get to see the whole thing.
Because what I saw in that speech was the mechanism by which any dollar that is not tied to a Bitcoin is going to lose purchasing power over time.
And the dollar's tied to Bitcoin is going to go up.
So you're right? They could usher in this Genius Act and the stablecoin regulations and bring dollars Bitcoin into the treasuries and gold into backing treasuries and reinvigorate the dollar for another 30, 40 years, 50, maybe 50 years. Who knows?
Sure. Right? Which isn't like, I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world. I'm not saying I'm a fan either, but it might be.
But maybe if they're successful, and that's a if, because there's a lot of moving parts happening, especially this year. We can talk about that later. But if they're successful in pulling that off, which is going to be difficult, then we're going to get this period a very long transition where people realize that the dollar only has value because Bitcoin is going up in value. And then all of a sudden you'll get this bifurcation where all of a sudden a tether, right? Like Safedine described, a tether is now $1.02,
$1.05 or $1.02, yeah,
$1.05,
$1.02, right.
$1.10, $1.15.
It's a stronger dollar.
It's Bitcoin that's the asset that's driving the value of this dollar. And that if you didn't have the tether, you had USDC, which is 100% treasuries, all of a sudden you're going like, whoa, right? So it wakes up a whole nother group of people. Like, I'm going to save in Tether. Right. And then Bitcoin's now condensing in volatility 50 years out. And they're like, why am I saving in Tether? I just save in Bitcoin because now I'm getting 10 times the purchasing power versus 2 times.
Right.
Right. So,
but my big fear, the thing I think people, so this year seems like it's all about Bitcoin for treasuries, Bitcoin for corporations.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
And last year I was kind of excited about that as someone with a TradFi background, because I think, I think it's the best savings technology for people, for companies. You could say governments. I'm not pro-government,
right?
But like, I think it's a great savings vehicle. So you say, oh, okay, companies they have reserves, great. They trade that cash for Bitcoin, awesome. But now we're getting into a place where it's really like almost, hey, we're going to buy Bitcoin for you. That's a very complicated thing, buying it, cussing it. And not only that,
we could buy it better than you.
We could buy it better. And by buying it better, we can leverage your Bitcoin and we can provide some sort of like weird yield, right? Yeah. So now you're in this place where the biggest promoters of this strategy, though, it's like, it's not about savings. It's about levering up.
Sure.
It's about, going long, kind of going long on Bitcoin, doing better than Bitcoin. And it's kind of like, hey, let me buy Bitcoin for you and babysit it for you.
Yeah.
And even if these companies have done well doing that in the past, doesn't mean it'll happen in the future. And I think if you build a flywheel of convexity going up, you get the same thing going down.
100%.
So you get in this place where like all these entities are buying Bitcoin. If their MNAV goes below 1, right? And then they're in a position where their securities are going down. The price of the securities are going down tremendously in price. And if they have to sell the collateral, and a lot of these companies are issuing debt in fiat, and sometimes in perpetuity.
And they're all basing it on the 4-year cycle where we won't be in a recession for more.
And they're all basing it like now they might be under levered, but if they keep issuing a lot of debt and the price of Bitcoin comes down and they keep buying Bitcoin at higher prices, those leverage ratios change.
If they themselves, through their influence in the market, change the cycle from a 4-year cycle to a who knows what cycle, that in itself will destroy them.
So my big fears, we got ants in the shed, swamp shed. But my big fear is it's like kind of combined. So now, like, because I think about a lot about the expression like maximum pain to, let's say now 1 million now.
Yeah.
What is that like? So that to me, and it doesn't necessarily doesn't affect people who have like self-custody Bitcoin or bought maybe at lower prices and haven't leveraged it. But let's say you have people who bought Bitcoin. Let's say Bitcoin goes from now to like 1 million. But along that way, people buy it at 800,000. Yeah. It hits 950. They lend it out as collateral to Wall Street. Yeah, Wall Street gives them a 75% haircut. Happen. And then Bitcoin goes from 900,000 to 400,000. Now maybe
they sell.
But maybe one of the reasons it goes from 900 to 400,000 is maybe one of these Bitcoin treasury companies gets hacked, or Coinbase gets hacked.
Sure.
All those coins are gone.
Right. They're not gone. They're in other hands.
They're in other hands, but shareholders don't have them. And so you get in this position. And also, I think it's very important for people to know that shareholders are last in line for assets in a bankruptcy.
Right.
So your debt holders are actually first in line. So if they, the debt holders, and a lot of times the debt holders are not buying to get Bitcoin price exposure. They're buying to hedge their shorts on these securities.
Right.
So
I think what you're describing is going to happen.
Right. I think we all know it's going to happen. Like we sat here with FTX and Luna and Celsius.
It's like any shitcoin trade.
And I don't know what's going to happen too.
It's any shitcoin trade where you're literally just saying like, I'm not the greatest fool. And you're going to take the ride and you're going to hopefully get out before the you know, the Ferris wheel goes around the other side of the trajectory.
Yeah, and I think what would be further interesting is like, so let's say the Bitcoin gets hacked, and then the United States government comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to insure the Bitcoin that got hacked with
Comes
printed
back.
dollars."
Sure, that means they hacked it.
Wait, whether they did that or not, but
That means the NSA took
they
it.
hacked it. Yeah, the NSA took it and recovers it a year later. But in the meantime, the market sees
So you
that
get
the
paid
United
out in
States
dollars.
government backstopped
Dude, think about that.
Bitcoiners.
If you're the NSA or the CIA,
Yeah.
and you've watched the 4-year cycle, and you watch Celsius blow
Sure.
up, and FTX blow
Sure.
up, and BlockFi,
Sure.
on and on and on, you'd be like, "This is a good program. We'll
Right.
We'll hack and
Yeah.
steal the Bitcoin and crater every market and take it, and we'll give them cash back."
But I can't figure out if FTX blew up or they blew it up. Because I think they were running money through FTX, but I think they also unplugged it to deflate the market. I can't decide which, and I think it might have been both.
I mean, certainly that Yahoo was not doing anything sophisticated.
Who? Yeah, no, the guy was an adult.
Yeah, so, you know, he was a nice tool in the shed.
Yeah, no.
We're the tools in the shed right now.
Well, Francis, should we run the intro? We could do. My name is Cedric Youngelman,
I'm Paul Tarantino.
and this is BitcoinCenter, and we're live. And Francis, I don't know if you're there. You can roll the intro. Or we can just keep going, and we can get into topics.
This is the official show.
Oh my
The
God!
official show. We have topics.
Wow, Elon Musk.
Trump is on the Epstein list. Of course he is. Of course he is.
I think we've all known
Well,
that for a long
here's the question:
time.
is the list just who's on the plane?
Fine, I think that's what they're referring to
Right?
in the Black
I
Book.
mean, that's nothing new.
There's been videos of Trump
That's
before talking
nothing
about
new.
parties.
This is Trump just stirring the pot because he doesn't like the big fat bill. But either he's just on the plane, which there's a lot of people on the plane list, right? Or there's something real there, which what's happening with Bongino and
Patel,
Cash Patel and Pam Bondi would indicate that maybe there's something more there because they're not going.
But aren't they big
they're not-
supporters of Trump? I don't
Of
understand.
course, that's what I mean. They're not executing on disclosing the
Oh,
list.
I see what you're saying.
If they know,
Right, I see what you're
if
saying.
those two know there is something there, then what Elon is saying might be
I think something's
real.
there. I don't think we're going to find out what's there. I think this is part of the
Yeah.
chaos that this administration is designed to deliver. And I think this is just part of the
Dude,
show. I
Trump
mean,
is the master of breaking shit.
he is the man, but he's also he does play the news cycle really well. And I don't think he's afraid of bad publicity, like
No,
the grab him in
He
the
doesn't
blank
give a shit.
incident.
He
You know,
doesn't
like
care.
he survived some
No, he
kind of
doesn't
like
care.
gross shit in sort of PR and what was not considered normal 5 years or 8 years ago.
Right.
So I think he can kind of deal with this,
Sure.
and they could
Well,
kind
he's
of
been dealing with. That's the thing
Right,
is
right,
that he when the Epstein list came out, his pictures were all over.
yeah,
Immediately.
right.
So this is not new news.
And it's weird that it's to me
It's only new
Right.
if something.
And it's weird that Musk is getting permission to do this when like 9 months ago Biden administration didn't go this
So
far.
let's think about this.
Okay.
So if Elon is in there doging, is he in there doging to really?
No, the Doge thing was fake.
No, hold on.
They gave him
Okay, well, let me
Twitter.
finish.
He doged Twitter as a psyop to be like, this is the guy who can fire 80% of the people and think it's better. And actually, Twitter got better maybe for like a weird minute, but now the bots are out of control. The porn's out of control. It's not gotten that much better.
It's gotten that much. No.
So he's not that much.
So he doges. He
The
gets
government.
he gets the contract. He's in there. He's not there to really doge. He's
Right.
there to figure out what is the inner plumbing, what's really working, what's really happening, who's getting paid off, who's not.
I don't think that's
Where's the
true
rainfall?
either.
You don't
I
think
think he
that's
was
true
there to
either?
spread the news that spending is out of control, that we have a lot of debt. They're trying to figure out how to like.
How would you not like?
There-
You think there's just like a large group of people to follow Elon that without
I think
without his
Elon is Thiel's
leadership,
front man.
without his leadership, they would never believe that.
Yeah,
Without
I
him
think
saying
I think
we're
he's-
spending too much.
Yes. They were like, oh, this is the guy who went into Twitter and fired it. And so you have the right-leaning people like, oh, he made Twitter better and he made it more efficient. He's He's an engineering technology back office operational efficiency guru.
Right.
The guy should be doing
And he's
design
worried.
controls.
Now
for
he's worried.
And now he's not even an American. Okay, this is what's also weird. Okay, like why the fuck did the American government hand to him the keys to every American agency to audit? That's not cool. And then he's advising the president, and then the president turns on him.
It's literally the Republican version of like we just elected a
buffoon.
California governor who's from China.
Yeah,
or whoever that person was.
It's like, here's Newsom, Trump. Here's your Newsom, and we're gonna let you spat with him over efficiency. But all of this
Trump takes it. Trump like eats it up because he's gonna get this huge technocratic vote.
But all of it's to kind of sell the story that like spending can't be stopped. The debt can't be stopped, and we have to take down all the physical.
All they had to do was listen to Leigh Alden.
And they're destroying the physical structure of surveillance, the physical structure of money, and these guys are the mouthpiece for it.
Okay.
What did Francis say? Francis, what's up?
All that being true, we're totally missing the next.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes left. All right,
Bitcoin's 4-year cycle dead.
Oh man, that's a good question. I think it's possible we've peaked in price.
I'm gonna say no.
You think we have like a massive boom and a massive bust?
Well, here's why. Not because of the cycle, but I think there's a massive recession coming after the boom. So like I think we're gonna get a pump into midterms.
What if we don't? What if we get no pump? This is what you scared me with. What if we get no pump?
Yeah.
Or the pump to like in pump terms, whatever metric you want to take, Bitcoin goes up 10%, gold, whatever. Something goes up a little bit, not a lot. And then the whole thing crashes and they don't print until we beg.
It goes to 150 and then goes to 60.
It goes to 20.
Yeah.
And everything with it.
Fucking load up.
And everyone is just like, what? Like, and they're like, look, if you want us to print, you're going to get $90 eggs.
But that would fuck Trump.
They don't mind. I think Trump is here.
He totally has to win the midterm election.
They wouldn't. The right would never let Biden print to infinity. The right would never let Biden do the digital surveillance. Trump was
just like, yeah, I agree with Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
Like they're gonna pump.
They agree on.
They're going to pump.
Yeah, but
they're going to print.
Just when though, like you said. So are they going to do it before the crash or after? And how much of a crash and how long?
Well, okay.
And both. Do they do a pump, crash, then pump?
Let me just take that and describe it this way. If it happens, it has to happen before July if we're going to get a crash. Because July...
That's like 30 days.
Yeah, I know. July 9th, $5 trillion in treasuries need to be refinanced.
But I think a lot of people
interest rates have not come down. Jerome Powell's not showing any indication that he's going to lower interest rates anytime soon. If that's the case, and we have high interest rates, and we're going to try and refinance it back into high interest rates, that guarantees
Weinmeier, like
massive
inflation
interest payments going forward, and just the debt bubble getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If that's the case, right, then we're going to be in a position rapidly where we have to completely devalue the dollar, and we have to create massive amounts of liquidity somehow.
Well, they have to do those things.
So
they have to create the narrative to do it.
Does the Treasury do QE? Does it there's like some of these thoughts out there where maybe there's an internal battle between the Fed and the Treasury, and this is not going to be resolved.
Right.
And if that's not resolved, if the Fed is like, we are not going to print this time, because historically there's been precedents where they said, let's not print because we can seize more control. Let's bankrupt the Fed so we can seize.
We need pain.
We don't like Trump. Let's not print. We can punish him, and then we can come back in and seize more control. The big banks, the global banks, the London banks, the Wall Street banks, seize more control.
Right.
Where at the same time, you see Eric Trump and his brother on TV saying, screw the banks. They've been screwing us.
I saw Donald Trump speak at industry
you could presume there's a war there.
He was talking a lot about
between the Trump administration
and the big banks. That's interesting.
And who owns the Fed? Right? So
the big banks.
The biggest banks.
That's interesting.
Right? So if the Fed says, fuck him, we're not going to print.
Right.
And they're going to be stuck in this month and a half here that we have to we got to get interest rates down, or we got to get a new person installed at the Fed, or we have to kill the Fed. And we have to do QE on our own, We got to issue a treasury dollar. We got to go back to a constitutional dollar. We got to get off a debt-based dollar. A dollar issued by the treasury, backed by gold and Bitcoin.
That's a bridge very far.
That's a freaking game changer.
That's not happening.
That's like nobody's bingo card.
No one's.
Except mine.
It's interesting. But I think this question is more designed around like, oh, are the ETFs going to just buy so much Bitcoin? Are the Bitcoin treasury companies buying so much Bitcoin that we just never get a dip?
That's the story.
That's the story.
That's the story, right?
It's a good story. It's very viable.
Bitcoin, we're getting all these corporations to buy the Bitcoin. But if the Federal Reserve doesn't print, the U.S. government is smoked.
Okay.
They're smoked. And if they are smoked, what are their options? Right. So if you step back and you just look at this as like the Federal Reserve and the Trump administration are actually enemies, that's a whole different picture.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
That's very interesting.
And I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to play out. I'm just saying that's a position, a view, a timeline that you should hold, because if it's not happening now, that could happen in the future. You know, and if we so I see this battle arising. We're going to go either we go into a sharp, steep decline now. Sorry guys. We already talked about this.
We'll go back.
If you come in early and you can talk about that.
So maybe go to the next topic while he finishes up his point.
I don't even remember what I was talking about.
All right. Well, let's go to the next topic. And strategy of becoming a Bitcoin bank.
The bottom line is the Fed doesn't have to print. The Fed doesn't have to buy our debt. They don't have to. Just keep that in mind. They don't have to do it. It's not a mandate.
That's interesting.
They didn't buy it in
strategy of becoming a Bitcoin bank. Well, all right. I'm going to ask you, Paul, like there's so much here. Like, what is a Bitcoin bank? But my main question is like, when does strategy reveal how much
it's
Bitcoin
more like a
strategy?
Strategy becomes a Bitcoin hedge fund.
I think
if they said that, I'd be like, yep, yeah.
I think, but I don't. I think, you know, as smart as Michael Saylor is, I think he's figuring it out as he goes a bit, like anyone else would.
Or his AI is.
Or his AI is. And I don't know if he knows what the destination is, meaning how many Bitcoin do you need to do the future thing you don't know what you're going to do yet? So is 500,000 Bitcoin enough to be a Bitcoin bank? Do you need, is the million a number? Because at some point you say, like, you know, we have.
I think he's like all of us is like, you'd never have enough.
I think that's what it is. But like, at what point do you say we have enough to do this other thing, to be a bank or a hedge fund? Is it 650,000? Is it 1.2 million Bitcoin?
No,
at some point you become.
I don't think that's even the calculation. I think the calculation is how many Bitcoin per share, how much premium can I drive on my share price, so I can sell more shares in the market to buy more Bitcoin. And as long as I can play that game, I will keep playing that game. As long as I can financialize Bitcoin,
right? But I think
through Wall Street,
I'll play that game. A new game.
Yeah,
and
he'll
at some
have
point,
to.
Like, now that we have 914,000 Bitcoin, we're now this.
He'd have to.
And I wonder, like, you know, like for me,
especially
it's
like, as volatility
decreases. I don't think it'll decrease though. I think it'll increase.
Well, okay,
that's gonna be interesting.
It'll be interesting to find out.
Maybe we'll do that in the lightning round. Well, let's go through this
next.
Next, whenever you get a chance, Francis, we'll start. 9 lightning rounds. 10 lightning rounds, 1 minute each, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Trump's strategic Bitcoin reserve. I mean, America's strategic Bitcoin reserve. What do you think? We're about 6 months in.
It's not Trump's, by the way. If it's anybody, it's the Bitcoin Policy Institutes.
Okay.
Because they've been pushing this harder than anybody.
I think the whole thing's
Kudos
a grift.
to them.
I think it's a VC shitcoin grift. And I don't think we're going
to I think it's a political
grift. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right.
I think they're raising money.
Trump got elected. Yeah.
And everyone's riding that Bitcoin marketing campaign.
But it's a Trojan horse for us. And I think if what I'm foreseeing comes anywhere close to fruition, gold and Bitcoin have to move into.
Do you want the government to buy Bitcoin? Want is the word I'm asking here.
It's a double-edged sword.
I'm gonna err on the side of no, not knowing. I'm just gonna say if you ask me, I'm gonna say you don't know. Why don't we think this through? What I want.
I think
so I guess like the dollar and have no capital gains.
If you would ask me that question before Trump's election,
you would have said yes.
I would have said no. I don't want them to, because I wanted it to be for the people, by the people, and it be a really grassroots thing. But we're here now.
Yeah.
And I was very like against it for a while. Like, screw this is a risk and all that. And I've just recently come to a position was like, we're in the stadium. The gladiator is in the freaking stadium and he's our gladiator. And so no matter what they try and do with it, it's going to ruin them.
The Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is going to ruin. It will ruin every government.
I think I don't disagree. I think Bitcoin could and should eat everything alive, including governments. But I think if we have our druthers, like if it's like if you ask me, like I'd rather refrain from voting than be like, yeah, I voted for this guy, and then now I got to defend these things he does that I don't like, right? So same thing with the government buying Bitcoin. I think there are some pros, but I think the cons will maybe be worse than the pros over a long period of time.
This is what I've said this before. I've said this before, and I keep coming back to it whenever I hear this argument.
Yeah.
I can never remember this guy's name, but he told me this at a Bitcoin day in Naples. He's like, there will be a hard fork in the future where we will separate from state-owned Bitcoin.
Right.
And
KYC Bitcoin over here, store value, no taxes.
So let's say
no
we drive.
fees.
Let's say over the next 10 years, we drive to Bitcoin owned by the sovereigns, and it's $2 or $3 million a coin, $10 million, whatever number you want to put on it. All the Bitcoiners get rich, but they have lost their freedom and their sovereignty because it's state-owned Bitcoin, and the state is now talking to core, and the state is now mining, and
dictates
the state is running nodes, right? They're doing, and they're sanctioning transactions. That pressure will force a hard fork,
right?
And I'm hopeful that at that time, 10 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, 50, whatever that time frame is, that we will have enough freedom tech.
But
we'll have enough cryptography that we could actually do a hard fork where we create a Bitcoin for the people. And now you've got coins on each platform.
Right.
You've got $10 million worth of coins on Bitcoin today, and you got $10 million worth of coins in the new fork.
Right.
That's
and
sovereign and private.
Yeah.
And you can run them both.
Right.
Right. And you tell the state, fuck you.
And I think the state's forcing that fork with ordinals, NFT. Like, I think they're pushing that shit in some indirect way.
Yeah.
And they're saying, let's blow the fuck out of the blockchain. We're going to give you a reason to fork, and from different directions.
Yeah.
You want filters, fork. You want to be quantum resistant. We're going to pump up that fear.
Yeah.
We're going to fear you into forking. We want you to fork.
They're going to use fear for centralization.
Right.
Fear will drive centralization.
We want you to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what's weird. Next topic: Europe's central bank stance on Bitcoin. I don't know, what is Europe. Don't they hate it? They're like, we don't need an escape hatch. Don't leave. Stay on our money.
Okay,
thank you. Okay, this was so kind of
GameStop is
Did you see the announcement?
Freaking lightweight. No, I didn't. I guess I didn't. But
so
far they haven't bought enough.
So yeah, I mean, I saw Michael Saylor on New Year's Eve talk to the CEO of Rumble and give the game plan. He was orange pilling Chris.
Yeah. But
the game plan is like, tell the market you're going to buy Bitcoin. Tell the market you're going to borrow to buy Bitcoin. Then you need to buy the Bitcoin because your stock went up a lot because they expect you to buy it.
Yeah.
Then you need to let them know you're buying the Bitcoin. Then you need to let them know that you're going to buy more and you're going to borrow more to buy the Bitcoin. You have to feed the market that narrative, which I agree with.
Yeah.
And then GameStop comes out and says, we bought some.
Yeah.
And we don't really know where it's going.
They don't get it.
We won't
they don't get it. They don't get it yet.
And that's not the way to work the way the market's reacting to them.
I mean, are you kidding me, GameStop? If you have the ability, do you know how you could bury your shorts by buying Bitcoin?
But I think says to me that Ryan Cohen, I don't know Ryan, but that he doesn't fully understand it yet.
Yeah.
He's dipping his toes in.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll do enough to appease them.
Yeah.
I'll see where it
Whatever.
goes.
He'll learn. He'll get Bitcoin at the price. He'll
get
Bitcoin at the price he deserves.
Yeah. I mean,
that's it.
Okay. Next
Bottom line next.
I agree. Maybe he has more up his sleeve though. Who knows? Favorite moments from Bitcoin 2025. Paul, you go first. I was there, but
I was not there.
You made the smart move to stay with family and celebrated a great occasion.
My favorite podcast or speech that I watched on YouTube was Saifedean.
I'd have to note that I saw the clip and
Dylan Leclerc was pretty badass too.
Sure. And
but-
Lynn Alden, I heard it. Really
Well,
good.
yeah, I mean, I just have heard that from Lynn for so long, but I love
Sure.
Lynn. She's amazing. So it wasn't like new. But yeah, no, I would say Safedeen's review of Tether and their Bitcoin balance sheet, that was eye-opening. That was rad.
Safe is good for a rogue take or contrarian, not just for the sake of, but a very different take.
not
and
just
so
for
it's
the
great.
sake of like his shit is
like a different
contrarian,
angle on it.
but for real.
Yeah, no, that's what I liked
Yeah,
about it. It's thought-provoking
Yep.
and very interesting.
And then the other thing was just seeing Trace Mayer. Trace Mayer
cool
making coming back.
I don't care
to the
what
scene.
shortcomings you might have, man.
I love Trace.
Yeah, me too.
Trace is
Did a lot
fucking
for
the
me.
man.
Yeah.
He is the fucking man.
The way he shared ideas.
I wish I could remember as much as he forgot. Like he is a legitimate brain.
I think he has
powerhouse.
forgotten maybe. I don't know.
But anyways,
He was really nice. I met
seeing
him in
Trace
person.
come back, seeing Safedeen's, that was my highlight.
Trace is supposed to come on the show in June. Hopefully that.
Yeah,
that
that'd be
works out.
amazing.
The picture was enough, but I would love to have him on the show. There's a lot I want to talk to him
Yeah,
about. He's on my Mount Rushmore of.
Okay, so Trace
People are
is
supposed
a descendant of. God, I'm gonna screw up the name. Something Bradford, a Mayflower descendant,
No shit.
and my wife is a descendant of the same guy.
No shit.
So
Oh, wow.
my wife and all my kids are Mayflower descendants, and they're registered Mayflower descendants, and the whole deal. And Robert, I think it's Robert Bradford. So it's literally like the main head honcho from Plymouth Rock.
But like you can trace this.
There's a whole Mayflower society
Right.
that traces a whole lineage, and my wife's a part of that. So therefore, my kids are a part of that.
So you know our show.
And Trace is a part of that.
You know our show on the Bitcoin Matrix. Our second spiritual warrior conversation with John Burnett is coming out Monday.
Nice.
And it's fun. It's interesting when you hear a story like that, how that
Yeah.
might interlace with that conversation. I don't know, because we get into a lot about fake history.
Well, look at man. I think there's a lot to do with like epigenetics.
I don't know what that means.
It's
That's a
your
big word.
lineage.
You lost me at have to do.
Okay. Epigenetics are like your DNA history that you might remember from past lives.
You might remember it, or it's like
You might
science?
remember it, or you just feel it, or you intuit
okay.
from your lineage.
but not
so-
your actual past life. You mean your ancestors?
Well, your past life is a part of that.
You might have been your own ancestor. You
Well,
mean?
like-
I'm
like,
asking. This is
We don't know, right?
I
No one
know we
knows
don't
for
know.
sure. It's
Yeah.
just theoretical, but there
Theoretical.
is some science showing that there are memories and there are traits
Right.
that come from your DNA. So biologically, you would carry forward some of those traits of your ancestors. So if you had ancestors that were Vikings, or you had ancestors that were or whatever the hell his name is, I'm totally screwing it up because I've had too many Calusas. But right, if you were that from that lineage, you would carry forward that spirit, that essence, that
That's
desire.
interesting.
Right. Alex Jones talks a lot about this too. Where
So does
he-
Josh Mandel. Like
Really?
he says he's a looper.
Okay.
And that he's like almost like a time traveler, or I shouldn't say almost, and that like he's seen the future and lived it, and he's also like lived the past,
Mhm.
and certain memories he doesn't know if they're from the future or the
Sure,
past, and he's
sure.
just going back and forth on the timeline.
I had a really interesting moment this year because my entire life I had a dream where I would wake up in a panic, locked in a concrete box and couldn't get out. Like pounding. Like I have woken myself up because I've broken out of sunroofs in cars when I was sleeping, like crazy shit. And then I had this dream and I woke up, and what it was a war in Palestine. And a big bridge got bombed and it collapsed on me, and I could feel the concrete coming in, and I couldn't get out. And I knew I was stuck and I was alive and I couldn't get out, and I was trapped in this box. I was going to die. But when I woke up from that dream, it was like May 5th, 1948. I was like, what the hell is that? So I go and look it up, and it's like, that's one of the first wars between Israel and Palestine.
Wow.
And I have this natural inclination to this is the most disgusting war ever. And I feel that intuitively. And literally I've had dozens of dreams where I've woken up in a panic being trapped in this concrete box.
Wow.
And it was like, this was like the aha moment for me. So this is like epigenetic, like memory or past life memory. I don't know, does that get passed on to you biologically? Are you tapping into consciousness? what is happening there, you don't know. But maybe it's all the above, right? Maybe it's all the above. Maybe it's your DNA connecting with the signal
Right.
or receiving consciousness signal. So anyways, an aside, but
That's fascinating. I think we should squeeze in one more after that note. No. One more. Come on, one more.
next.
Price per that's funny. Okay, there you go. You go. You want me to go first?
I have
None of this is financial advice.
Yeah, that's right.
We're a bunch of highly regarded bulltards, and this is for either like bull or bear juice. I don't know what he's gonna say.
All right, I'm gonna give you a price, and then I'm gonna go pee.
Okay.
All right, so I'm thinking we're going to like 140, 150, and then down to 70, and everyone is thinking the bull market's dead. It's over, and they're gonna sell, and then we're going to 440, Josh's target.
All right.
By the end of
Okay.
the year.
I got two. My fear is, we've already peaked. And somehow, some way that like 109, 112, that's kind of the top. And that could be okay for Bitcoin, maybe even better. My bull-tard, pure like looking at 2017, what could come? 1.3 million April 2026.
On that note,
with no drawdown.
commercial break. I'm gonna hit the stump.
Okay, I'll hold it down while he goes out the door into the swamp, and we'll roll out. I don't know if Francis has any comments or Q&A or anything, or we just wrap. But let's see. Nah. Well, are there any comments at all? I didn't hear you. No. So let's just wrap it up. Thank you for tuning into the first live episode of Bitcoin Center. This is Cedric Youngelman, host of Bitcoin Matrix, and my co-host who's in the bathroom, Paul Tarantino, is the CEO of Byte Federal. Go down to your Byte Federal ATM and buy Bitcoin and self-custody it. That's the only way to have a seat at the table. Thank you so much for tuning in. Paul's back. He could say goodbye on his own.
Peace out.
All right.
Peace.